Hi, everyone. My name is Ruby Powers with Powers Law Group, and we're going to be talking about what you need to know about the E-2 visa. It's a great opportunity for investors. It also gives an opportunity for for employees as well. So I'm a board certified immigration attorney with 15 years of practice. I speak Spanish and a little French and Turkish, but it's a bit rusty. And I have been an advocate for immigrants and other community stakeholders, and a law practice management author and professor. So let's go ahead and dive in. As someone who's had my own business for 14 years, I really resonate with the E2 visa and E1 as well. The E visas are for a few different reasons are temporary workers, and some people don't realize that. There's the E1, which is the treaty trader for conducts substantial trade in goods, including but not limited to services and technology, mainly between the US and the country of origin. Now, 2, which is what we're going to focus on today, is the treaty investor invests a substantial amount of money and direct the operations of an enterprise they have invested in. And then the Australian number E3, which we don't see a lot, but we do have them. The Australian specialty occupation workers perform services in a specialty occupation, but they have to be Australian. So it's very specific. Now, the thing about these visas is that there's has to be with specific countries, or you have to have a treaty between the country that you're a citizen of and the United States. So the list doesn't change very much, very frequently. So some of these lists stay on here for a long time and have been here a long time. But what you can see are a lot of countries, but there's some countries that are missing. For example, there's Mexico, but there's no Venezuela. There's Pakistan, but there's no India. We do see a lot of clients coming in from Mexico, for example, and a lot of these other countries. Now, depending on which country you're coming in from, you're a citizen of, you also have different reciprocity of how long they'll continue the validity of the E2. So there's the E2 treaty investor allows a national of a treaty country to be admitted to the US when investing a substantial amount of capital in the US business. Certain employees of such a person or a qualifying organization may be eligible for this classification. That's what we meant about the employee part. So who can file? So if the treaty investor is currently in the US, you can file an I-129, which is the form used for lots of different things, to request a change of status from whatever you were, maybe you're a B2 or something, to an E2. Now, if the desired employee is currently US in a lawful non-immigrant status, the qualifying employer may file an I-129 to request a change. Now, to qualify for an E2 classification, the treaty investor, so we're talking about the investor specifically, must be one, a national of a country in which the US maintains a treaty for commerce and navigation, 2, have invested or be actively in the process of investing a substantial amount of capital in a bona fide enterprise in the United States. Okay, you have to break that down. Have invested, so you've already done it, or you are in the process. Like you really are, obviously, you can see that you've done it. A substantial amount, what is that? Well, it's really like proportional to the price or the cost of the business. So it would be almost to the point of the majority of the amount that would it cost to get a business up and running, but it's proportional to the investment. So, for example, if it was to be about $1 million business, you'd want to have probably 600,000 to 800,000 invested with a payment plan, showing that you're planning and how you're planning to pay off the rest of the amount. And then the final point here, be seeking to enter the US solely to develop and direct investment enterprise, which is also subtext to this is a non-immigrant visa. You must also have intent to return back. So a substantial amount goes into a little more detail here. Substantial in relationship to the total cost of either purchasing an established enterprise or establishing a new one. So that's another thing to note. Like we're talking about a business that you can start from scratch, or you can buy a franchise, or you can buy a business that's already been built up and you're buying it from that seller. So there's lots of different options. We've helped people had a dog grooming company, like a school. We've consultancy, a food truck, a lot of different consultancy services, restaurants, things like that. So there's a lot of different E2 options, and it's really exciting because as a business owner, I really enjoy seeing my clients flourish. Of a magnitude, so continuing on the substantial, of a magnitude to support the likelihood that the treaty investor will successfully develop and direct the enterprise. So it's important to note that the lower that's in mass amount that's invested, the higher proportionally the investment must be considered substantial. So the lower the cost of the enterprise, the higher the investment must be considered. So, for example, if it's a 40,000 investment to buy the cost of the business, you would want to have the full 40,000. Now, in many cases, 40,000 is too low. A lot of times we get asked um, that if there's a certain amount. There is not a certain amount. I know some firms don't want to talk to anybody unless it's like 100,000, 200,000. But we had seen in the years past as low as about 40 to 50,000, but it is proportional to the amount of the business that would cost. Now, another side note is that you also want to make sure you have enough funds to live off of and to pay your bills, because if and your life is an open book when you're applying for this. So if you only have enough to pay for the business and no nothing else, then they're not going to like that, because then they don't assume that they don't think you have enough funds to live off of, because it takes a while to show a profit for a business, and so you want to be able to show that you have the ability to do so. So some of the things needed: detailed job description, resume, professional achievements, because you also want to establish that the primary E2 holder, has experience or has transferable skills to be successful in this business venture. You also want to show a lot of the certificate of incorporation, commercial lease, things like that, contracts, propose clients or customers. You really want to show the success, and in many cases, you want to have a business plan as well. So really it comes down to, if you want to look at it two different ways, after you've decided you want to do it and you've thought through what type of business and how much and things like that, then you're either going to file it inside the US or outside the US. So inside is a change of status from whatever you came in on to the E2. And often we see it as a B2 to E2 situation. And you can do premium processing to get the decision within a few weeks. So that makes it a really good situation. But a lot of times people come multiple times to be able to scope out a business opportunity before they finally decide and start putting forward. It takes a lot longer to start a business from scratch, but it also can be very rewarding. But you want to be able to document everything. As soon as you know where you're planning to do this, you want to keep track of how much you've invested. Usually you can have an account, like a bank account, credit card, an Excel sheet, or some way of tracking to be able to prove all the money that you've invested, including your legal fees, and the cost that it takes to build up your business is count part of that investment. Now, if you're outside of the country, you submit your application by doing the DS-160, and you notify the consulate embassy that you're applying through that you are going to be submitting. You want to submit an E2. Every consulate embassy has their own little rules about how they want to do things, and so usually it will be to submit a email with information. They might have a limit of how many megabytes you can submit. There's also the ability maybe to bring a binder on the day of. So it does become a challenge along those lines. Now, the period of stay does vary depending on the reciprocity. So some countries have 5 years, some as low as like one. So it really depends on your nationality and often also how much you pay to have. For example, Mexico previously had only 1 year and they've increased it in the last couple of years. And so that has been a huge change for Mexican nationals coming to the United States and then can have a lot longer if they want to pay for that amount. The other really good thing to note is that family spouses can work, spouses of E2. So E2 dependents can work, and they've made it a lot easier to be able to have the work authorization. And then they've also allowed children 21 and under who are unmarried to have the E2 dependency. So they can come here to study, but not work. So what does that mean is that if someone comes here for a while and their children are starting to get to the higher up teens, like 18, 19, they really want to have a plan if they're going to go towards a green card option for the whole family in time before the oldest child starts turning 21. So these are just some things to consider. This is just a brief overview of the E2. We have lots of experience with E2s. There's changes that happen on a regular basis, but having the business acumen and knowledge of various countries and nationalities that apply for E2, we bring that to the table. We actually have 4 full-time attorneys and 2 other part-time attorneys who assist on all things legal, plus our other support staff. But we have Spanish speakers, Ukrainian, Russian speakers, Turkish speakers, French. So we're here to assist you through this process. It's a great opportunity. A lot of people can have an E2 for a really long time. It can give you a pathway to find another option to stay here, and it can give you opportunity to grow your business. And so we're here to help you. Feel free to give us a call at 713-589-2085, as well as reach us at contact@rubypowerslaw.com, or you can find out more about us on all our social media and get added to our Spanish and English newsletter that comes out every other week. So check us out. Feel free to forward this to a friend that could benefit. Give us a call if you'd like to learn more. And it was thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.